Okay, let's get started, guys. This week, we're going to build on what we did last week. We sort of dug into fractal theories and gave some a little bit of examples. Let's build on that with some how a trader might attempt to sit down and make sense of what's going on today, make some do some analysis, make some trade plans, and all that sort of good stuff. Okay, so if it's okay with you guys, I've already seen some of the charts today. Okay, but we're gonna. The theory is you might be sitting down for the first time, and you might be looking at what's going out there in the out there in the market, and you need to sit down, do some analysis, and make some sense of what's going on, and then make some trade plans, right? So, based on the fractal nature of the market, we just start with the Aussie dollar here. Now, the reason I want to start with Aussie is I think it's the easiest. This and the Kiwi are probably the easiest to be trading off. So I want to sort of start easy and then slowly get harder. Okay. So, excuse me. On this daily chart here, what would you think is your bias? Based on what you see, and maybe for the next little bit, what would your bias be? Short? Neutral? Bearish? Okay, so we've got some shorts in there. I'm sort of short, okay? The fact is that I'm short is this, to me, has changed trend where I'm putting this red box at a lower high with, if we're thinking price action, this swing over here. Okay, so it's got this sort of the sideways with hesitating, but that sort of is the vibe I'm getting right now. Okay, so I'm gonna be thinking, can I get this thing to go short? Okay, let's put it this way, daily chart, it's my longer term bias. Okay, now we're going to look at some charts today where your longer term bias is going to be down, but it's not necessarily today. Okay, and the fractals help us with that. Now, let's just go to our 4-hour fractal. Okay. Now, what do you think? Four-hour, doing your analysis, sitting down, drinking your coffee in the morning or wherever you are, what you're doing. You'll see that we've had a lot of sideways. And we had a little breakdown on Thursday. The Friday was the pullback to this area that we broke from. And Monday has been a really nice short day. Okay, in that longer term direction of the daily. So you've got to think short on that, correct? Okay, so your 4-hour is telling you short. So already, you look at the daily, and remember what I said, the daily, we'll get to it, but just because your daily is down doesn't mean you might short it on a given day. It's a longer term bias. This 4-hour bias is sort of, I think the 4-hour is more of, we're getting into your medium term bias, what I would call my medium term bias, and what I would like to do with it today. Okay? So, I look at this and I'm thinking, well, I would like to just try and keep swinging it. Okay? So, high level, this is what I'd be looking for. Can I keep running that down the road? Okay, I'd like to see a pullback to some area of resistance, and then I'd like to short it. Just using my fractals. My daily's down, my 4 hours down, everything's down. It's easier to trade in the direction to the downside. Okay, not necessarily looking to long it. I'm going to look to short it. So if we go to a trade planning chart, like the 15-minute chart here, let me go to, that's the hourly, sorry, we'll go to 15 minute. You can use an hourly, 15 minute, doesn't really matter, but something that you can plot where you would like to trade from in a given day. Okay. So what do we got here? Well, if we fib the latest drop, which is basically the highs of Friday to the lows of yesterday, if you like, that's what we've got. Okay. And therefore we're also, now we're looking for areas to short from, right? So high level on our fib chart, we can be looking for, maybe something in this yellow box as an area that we'd like to short from. My bias is down, I want to short it. Okay, somewhere in here is going to be the spot that I'd like to do it from. If I'm going up to the 786 to do it, I'm getting a little nervous. The higher you go, the least resistance you're going to find, and the more you might find people willing to long it. Okay, so I'm thinking shorting. Okay, Constant, how are you doing? So I can quickly go to things like my pivots charts. Okay. Pivot would be good start. And I can see that around 101, just above 101, I have my daily central as resistance. That to me would be an area mixed with this zone right through here, where I think it could continue to short. Now I've got a bigger box than here's basically your central pivot through here. Now I've got a bigger box up to 120 because I find personally that breaks of psych levels can run an extra 20 pips. Okay, so definitely in this zone, we've got a psych level, 101, a daily central pivot point, okay, and a 382 or a 50% fib all in this area. So give me some level of confirmation, guys, and that would be my trade plan A. Trade plan A will be to short that, because I'm bearish, right, to the downside. Can anyone tell me where my target might be, where I might look to take it to? I'm trying to be conservative. I'm trying to get it like a decent swing trade. Where would I trade it to? What's at 23, Aaron? What's that pivot saying? Pivot saying 9977. Okay. That would be a good target, wouldn't it? I mean, that there would be an awesome trade. Okay. The thing that gets my eyeball is this. I'm huge on psych levels, right? And there is no bigger psych level than this guy here. And remember, psych levels can get breached by 20 odd pips. So 9987, 9980. This fib level here. So bang, bang. That would do me fine. 100, 120 pips. I would be totally cool with that on the Aussie dollar. Don't need to be a greedy guts. Okay. They don't usually last that long. So my trade plan A is from here down to here. Okay, that's how that's going to last. Very simple. Long term down, medium term down. Now I just need the short term in the blue box here to turn down where my entry criteria is, and I'm all good. Okay? Now, exactly. I forgot about that. Anyway, so now we need to execute it, correct? We need to execute it. So if we're executing, what are we looking for? We're looking for some form. We've decided we've found resistance, right? Then I'm always gonna look on like a 3 or 5 minute chart, depending on the pair. But for this Aussie, I'd probably look at a 3 minute. For me, a 3 minute change of trend. Okay, so I'd be just looking for. I'm mixing a couple of things, right? I'll be in this area. Be looking for the 3 minute change of trend to roll over and give me an opportunity. Okay, so this is the pattern. You guys are probably all familiar. Trending up here, 3 minute chart. Little rolls over. So we go from making higher highs and higher lows. Okay, suddenly to a lower high, lower lows, and so you just sort of tag yourself a little shot, sort of enough confirmation in area of resistance. So short term rolling over, our medium term is down, our long term is down, sort of lining all the satellites. Give me that pattern in here, I'll take a shot. Now, I'm not going to go in this webinar into the specifics of when that goes horribly wrong, but how to still get in the trade and all the rest of it, the psychology behind it and that. But maybe that'll be a next week's webinar. We'll build on that aspect of things, okay? But essentially, looking for a short-term change of trend, bang, pull the trigger, sit back, waiting, and off we go. And in the next hour or two, if I saw that, I would take a shot. I would even be more interested in this trade. This trade in here would get really, really good if it lined up with London Open. So somewhere in there, London opened up and we got our change of trend there. That would be like the cherry on top, because new money comes into the market and we get to short that thing. Bang, off we go. You with me? I cannot overemphasize how important time of day is in trading, especially when you got like in New York or London or Tokyo open and you're at resistance. Okay? Most times, London is going to come in and want to look for support or resistance. And if they can't find it, they're going to trade it to it. Okay? So that was my trade plan A. Anyone know what my trade plan B is? I'm only looking to short, so what would be my trade plan B? I always have trade plan A, B, C, D, whatever's required. On the Aussie, because I'm only bearish, I've got a couple. I just said I'm only bearish, so I'm not looking to long it. Right, and that's okay. Exactly, David L. If this fails, what I'm assuming, right, if I just go back to my fractals, is that maybe for now we've actually found enough support on this daily chart. Because at every fib you find the reverse fib of things, right? So we might find enough support on the daily level, which I think we can come down another level to the psych level. But just in case, I mean, you're not always right. Well, if it finds enough support on the daily, it's going to fib the entire drop. Whoa, there is two David L's. Whoa. Oh no, it can't be two. One is bad enough. I've got two David L's answering my questions. No, it's not. It is another David L. not Dave from Melbourne. I've got David L1 and 2 going. Yes. Okay, so as David L, I'm going to call the David L I know from O'Fallon, Illinois. I'm going to call him David L1. Okay. So I'm just going to fib the entire drop, guys. Okay. Let me just get why isn't my chart getting lined up? Okay. And so instead of shorting here, which was trade plan number 1 down here, I'll just bring it back up and look for other areas, trade plan number 2. Okay, so trade plan number 1 hopefully is that. Trade plan number 2 is hopefully that if A1 fails. Okay, so now thinking time of day, trade plan 1, I might have called it A earlier, I apologize, but I'll write on the screen right now. Trade plan number 1, okay, hopefully like a London open and a European market open, somewhere around there. Well, trade plan 2 up here might be more New York, thinking time of day, because if we are going to head up, it's probably going to come up, a little sip of the rise and do that sort of deal. Well, it's going to take a chunk of time. Okay. Now, because we're fibbing the whole move, and there's going to be a lot more buyers and sellers, and a lot more what I would call, a lot more support compared to down here at trade plan 1. I'm actually going to look for more confirmation on trade plan 2. So instead of like a 3-minute change of trend like I would take on trade plan 1, I would look for like a 15-minute change of trend on the trade plan number 2. Okay, very important. And I'll be looking for exactly something like this here. Okay, in that sort of 50%, 382 to 618 zone on the entire move. If I got this pattern over here, somewhere back over here in this box here, I would take a shot at it. Higher high stop above the 15-minute change of trend. And I think my initial target would be the same as trade plan number 1. So this is as potential of maybe 200, 220 pips of profit. Okay, now you might have to hold that for a while. Okay, that's something that, could warrant being held for a longer time, but just is what it is. Okay, so with trade plan 1, remember here to say here, trade plan 2, sort of back up here, down to sort of here. Okay, all very simple. It's all about analysis, trade planning in advance, sitting back, waiting. Okay, that's my Aussie dollar for the day, planned. Okay, I'm not going to plan anything in the opposite direction, I don't think, on this. There's been enough support broken. I think it's short, and I'm going to stick to my guns. Okay? So that's the Aussie dollar. Now, something a little more interesting is the euro. Now, here's the daily chart on the euro. Does the euro daily chart look a lot more bearish than the Aussie? Yes or no? It does, doesn't it? We've actually broken the previous daily swing. Yesterday's Yesterday we actually broke this swing here, this candle through here. Okay? But overall it's more bearish than the Aussie, wouldn't you say? Okay? So, fair to say we're long-term bearish. Right. So, 4-hour fractal, what does that look like to you? Bearish? Bearish as anything? I mean, don't you just want to get this swing by the horns and pull back and just bang a short on that thing? To the downside? Doesn't that look inviting? Yeah? Anyone fancy a short? I fancy the short, but I have a problem. And this is a very important thing. Although it looks more bearish, check out the Aussie. The Aussie's still got a lot of room down before it gets to weekly extreme pivots. Okay? Which I believe a high percentage of the time hold. But our good friends over in Europe have just struck, as Michael says, the weekly S2. This thing does not have to go any further this week. So it makes things for me, although I want to short it, it just makes things a little bit more interesting. And in fact, in class today, we actually set up the long. We actually took this sort of triple bottom change of trend here, and we actually gave it one of those. Because of the support of the pivots, we actually gave it the long, looking to get it to, say, our daily central before the next short. This is very important. This is potentially going to make trading on the euro a little bit harder than the Aussie, because the Aussie's got no one at home in terms of support. The euro just hit like its major support for the week, like time-based. Okay, so if it's time-based support and it's weekly extremes, the real short. Okay, the real short is probably potentially like the fib of this entire drop, back somewhere up like 133 short. Okay, so how do we play that today using fractals and trade planning and all the rest of it? Well, the funny thing is we're still going to find on the swing level. Yeah, I was just demonstrating the move fib because we've hit weekly extremes. You probably want to move fib that entire drop, but you're probably still going to get resistance at the swing level, right? So if we say take that drop there from Friday, close of Friday to the lows of today, we are still going to get probably resistance in this area, aren't we? Especially when we have a 50% fib with a 200 EMA, a roll reversal zone, all in that same area. The problem is this weekly extremes down here, it's going to be probably, in my mind, too hard to break it. So how can we play this if we're going to trade it? One is we can just walk away. Sometimes a smarter thing to do. We just walk away and say, nah, not trading that. There's too much support there now. We'll wait for the bigger, that 133, whatever it was, pullback and then short it. Or we just change our trading style to meet the demand of what's happening with our analysis, right? Our fractal analysis. So if we came up to this area and shorted it on our 3-minute or whatever change of trend, whoop, dropped, thank you, short, down we go. Who would be willing to take the short? Hands up. George will take it. Ron will take it. David, I'll take it. I would take it. But as David, the other David L, number 2, says, is I just don't know whether I would be willing to short it to try a lower low. My trade plan will be, trade plan number 1 here would be probably short to a fib of the rise. Something like back from, say, 132.70, 132.60, probably back down to something like right in here in the blue box area, we've got 132 cycle level. So there's probably a safe 70, 60 pip short there because of the weekly extremes down here, sitting right here. We've got to remember that there's probably an incredibly good chance that you're going to see this today. Something looks like that. So I would take it down to, say, 132, even 131.80. Okay. Another reason why I might bring it so low, some of you might even look for like a double bottom, is it's been pretty bearish, hasn't it, in the last 24 hours? And if it's going to turn itself around, it's still going to find people selling at every resistance level. So if we do get up here and it gets short, because of the shorting that's been happening day after day after day, they might short it and you might get it back down here before it would turn itself around. Okay? So my trade plan number 1 is a short from here. So number 1, short it, get it down to something 132, 130, 180, probably the max. Or if I noticed a short term, like a 3-minute, obviously probably maybe this is a what gets you in, gets you out. So if like a 3 or 5 minute change of trend gets you in, or a Stokes cross or MACD with combination with Stokes or whatever you may use. I would get out of it. Okay. And that would instantly, a change of trend down here, for me, would instantly kick off trade plan number 2. Because of the pivots, I think we've found enough support, and I'd be willing to take a long on that. So I could be looking for, say, London short into New York long. So putting some time of day behind it. okay, and trying to take that another level, okay. Check our pivots out. This here on that trade plane number 2, this is like Tuesday, right? We're like at the start of the week. Do not be surprised if you see us up here. And that's just a beautiful resistance level of that whole move. And that would be a target of mine. If I took trade plan number 2 seriously, I would target that 250 pips up the road. That would be, for me, because of the weekly pivots, that would be worth a shot. Remember, pivots, especially the higher you go, the least likely they'll get broken. These things, so look at this one here over here. Down, down, down. Look at this. Support held. No one home forever. This came all the way back to the red area. It actually pulled back and continued. But generally, guys, support pivots and resistance pivots, they hold the majority of the time. And that's why I'm going to always believe that that's going to hold down here. Okay? And that's why I think you could short into the long, and actually the better trade this week, now that we've hit the extreme, is probably up to here. Okay, so that would be my trade plan number 2, target. Any questions on that? Let's take a look at the pound, guys. What do you mean by pivot compression, George? That, like, week after week, they're getting narrower and narrower? So, when you get, is there an example here? I'm just going to look. See, what I believe, when you get compression, let's just check quickly on the daily pivots. We might get more of an idea. But when things get compressed, I'll just tend to disregard the extremes and believe they can get broken. Like here, it's not the world's best example. See how they're getting all compressed in here, sort of sideways, and they're not, we're not really we're not trending. So our pivots are sort of getting compressed a whole bunch. Like these resistance pivots are sort of sideways or coming down, and these guys are sort of trending up, the green areas. So it's we're getting sort of flat across the top, and we're getting squashed. Okay? The breakout, bang, I would just disregard, because of the compression and it's not trending, I would just disregard the extreme pivots of the breakout. And like this example here, just smashed through them, and the next day as well. And then finally found support a few days later off an extreme pivot, and then traded long to the pullback at an extreme pivot, and then continued extreme pivot. Get the drift? So we're not going to ignore them, especially the breakout. Once it happens, I'll ignore the extreme pivot and think it can get broken. Make sense? a pivot plotter written by a boot camper, Vince. I'll put a link in the room after the webinar if you like. So, what do you guys think of this pound? It's just a indicator, MT4 indicator, Vince. It's a plugin, yeah. What do you think of this pound here? Bearish? I've seen some worse dogs. It might be a dog, but it's not that bad. Sideways? Okay. I actually, like the Aussie, do see a change of trend in here. But maybe that's just my subtle sort of double top break of those lows after a fib of the drop down. I'm actually bearish longer term on it because of that. Okay. 4 hour fractal. Build on our analysis. What do you think now? Difficult. Yeah. A couple of words of advice. Sometimes when you're sitting down and doing your trade planning, you look at an Aussie and a Kiwi and you go, that looks straightforward. There's no one at home and pull back short. Just stick with those. You don't have to go and complicate things, right? You don't have to complicate things. Now, what's interesting here with this pound, the reason why I'm covering this is someday you're going to look at every pair and it's going to look like this. Today's interesting because the Aussie, the Euro, and the pound all have distinct different features. They're all sort of bearish, but they're all sort of varying bearishnesses, if there was such a word. Like you got the Euro's fallen off the cliff a bit, but has actually hit the ground, I think. The Aussie's falling off, but hasn't hit yet, and the pound may have hit already and is rebounding. Okay, so what's interesting to me here on this pound is how we've found support yesterday at an extreme daily pivot going into London, and it looks like we've formed this higher low. So potentially what's happening? Our 4 hour is sort of down here, but potentially about to do that, isn't it? Potentially. So, yeah, a little change of trend. Now, why would that be? Well, I'm not sure about let's check the weekly pivots. Did it hit extremes on the pound? For today? For this week? No. So we've got room to the downside. Okay? So we're fine on the pivots. Now, if I just draw the daily swing on here, okay, this is pretty much what's going on. And is this enough support that we're trying to find people buying and looking to take along? Okay, so if you're bullish on this pair, you would have been looking along here, and you would have been definitely looking along in here. Okay, but I still want to short it because I believe this daily change of trend through here in the last few days is what's dominating. However, if we just go to a trade planning chart, I'm not looking to short it at the next 4-hour swing. I'm actually fibbing the entire drop. Okay, so the Aussie, I'm willing to take the 4-hour swing. This one, I'm actually looking at the entire drop. So I'm going to be looking for opportunities sort of through here to get me to short it. And this might even mean that we have to break yesterday's highs. Okay, but it's just the fractal nature of what happens in the market. We've found daily support. If the daily's going to roll over, it has to go through and fib its drop. Okay, so think of it like a 15-minute chart. If you had shorted this here on a change of trend where I've put that arrow, well, you'd be watching it on a 15-minute chart thinking, good boy, down you go. You get a green. Now I need some red. And you'd be looking for that to continue, that change of trend in that direction. Well, we probably need a bit more green to get that to come down, just by the way fractals are, right? Whenever you're questioning things, just pretend it's like a short-term chart that you're used to trading all the time. Okay, it'd be perfectly acceptable for me to see this, do this, to come down. Okay, so that's my trade plan on the pound is somewhere up around probably 156.40 to 156.60. Now, what's our pivots telling us anything? 156.60 is our weekly central. Okay, now how about our daily? And if we get daily pivot and that overlap, it'll be huge. Okay, so this weekly central is the daily extreme M4-ish area. So that would be fine for me to do something like that. Okay, so that is my trade plan number 1. And that's really the only trade plan from now. Well, it's been fibbing and ranging for a while, David, but I still think you can make sense. It's not the best pair out of there, but if I got up, the way I trade it, if I got it up to the extremes up here today and it changed trend on a 15-minute chart, I'd short it. And I'd be looking for those weekly extreme pivots for the exit. Weekly M1 to S2 zone. Okay. If we were sitting in Asia doing this webinar, I did have a trade plan, an alternate. Both Davids agree. Both Davids concur. Okay. Now, because I saw what I saw earlier today, we did make a trade plan in Asia to long this pound. And the reason was we had a pullback and a 15-minute change of trend at a higher low. Okay. And off we went. And I still think, in fact, we can build a trade plan number 2 here. I still think we can long it. Okay, so a trade plan number 2 might be we'll try one thing, which will be just basically taking the fib of this rise, sorry. And if we can, always got my ear to the grapevine these days with the fundies, George. If I can get back here and get my 3-minute change of trend, I would probably take a shot at getting it up to that extreme daily pivot area. Okay. Now, what's very important about, George has asked a question about fundies, so I'm going to wrap things up. What's very important about the fundies, right, is guys should always be waiting for some form of confirmation, like a change of trend on a shorter term chart. And that's going to help you. See, let's say we're coming down to my buy zone on this area. Okay, so on our shorter term time frame, it's been coming down, and I'm waiting for my 3-minute change of trend. If fundamentals kick in, then it's going to go like this, right? Hello. I'm not going to get my change of trend, and so I'm not going to get in the trade. It's not going to do what I want, and if there's no change of trend, there's no trade. As simple as that. If you're someone who says, well, I'm pretty handy at this sort of stuff, if I get this down to the 50% fib, I'll drop a little stop below the 786, 30 pips down the road and let it go. No confirmation. A lot of the times that can work, but the risk is if the fundamentals kick in, you're dead. So I pretty much 100% of the time be waiting for changes of trend. Okay. Now, we'll wrap things up there. Next week, I want to take it a little step further and focus on the entries and basically when you have direction and you don't get into the trade, some ways around fixing that, and also the psychology behind all that sort of stuff. So that'll be next week's webinar. Probably one of the most important things that's helped me with my trading, sort of taken me from, taken me a big step further in my trading, is what I'll be discussing next week. So you guys have a good rest of your week. And I'll get that link out there for the webinar for next week when it's available. Have yourselves a good day. Same time, Ron? Yes. David L1, maybe change your name to Noda next week. Have a good one, guys.